Now today we're going to be looking at the new abilities introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Interestingly enough, the Pokemon Company has revealed 60 of the new Pokemon before the game even came out. So pretty much we get to see a lot of the new abilities, a lot of the new Pokemon, but there are some things to discover. We don't know anything about their hidden abilities and also just other exclusives. Now, an interesting thing is that this is the document everyone is pretty much getting their information off of, that you can check out the new ability releases, but this only factors in fully evolved Pokemon, so we don't see things like Wimpout or Battery. I think that is actually pretty substantial because Battery belongs to Charjabug. Now, Charjabug is fairly useful because you can slap an Eviolite on it, and Battery ability actually does some pretty cool things because it's going to boost an ally's special attack. So you have a permanent special attack boost just with this Charjabug hanging in there, and it could do some really nice supportive things. So we have Charjabug, I mean, 95 defense, 75 special defense, you can certainly Eviolite that, so that's why one of the things we are going to be missing from this list is going to be pre-evolved things like that. Now, I think Battery is going to be the biggest one, but still looking at some of these new abilities we haven't seen. Beast Boost. User's most proficient stat is raised when the user knocks out a Pokemon. Oh man, I've like done the recording for this video a couple times. Every time I say that, it just sounds a bit more dumb. Like, people have been waiting for that special attack Moxie or just more Moxie Pokemon in general. Well, Beast Boost is like that, except you can do it for whatever you want. If you're a tanky Pokemon, you get tankier, which means you have a better chance of killing the next Pokemon, so you get even tankier after that. And I was looking up some others, so let's go up to, I think it's Kartana. Kartana. We have a 109 speed, so the only drawback I see is that if your speed stat is the highest, you just gain more speed, which kind of doesn't really work out. But a 181 attack Pokemon that's going to keep snowballing more and more attack with that Beast Boost needs to be shut down immediately. Now, 59 hit points and that 31 means a special attack will absolutely clean you out. But if you still outspeed everything, or if you get a really good snowball off that 109 speed, you're still gonna do pretty well for yourself. And a 131 just base defense means that you don't have to worry about every physical attack either. So yeah, this is what we're looking at with the Beast Boost. That is absolutely terrifying to think about, and I do want to cover some of these new abilities with that. Now, an ability we already know about is Berserk. As we can see, we know about a lot of these up until about Emergency Exit, so the Pokemon Company has revealed and done a lot, but we can still go over these moves and see if there's anything different or if there's clarifications that go on now that the official game is released. Special attack is increased when hit points drop below 50%, so we already knew Berserk is pretty good, so I see some combos right here. You know, make the Salac Berry work, go for some kind of substitute strategy, or you just play it kind of bulky and then your hit points drop and now you're strong. So I see a lot of 2-hit KO conversions right there. You know, you take a hit, if you don't drop below 50, you can hit them and then like keep that snowball going, or you take a big hit initially and then you return a bigger hit back and go for a KO just like that. Berserk does have some good opportunities, however, it is only on the Drampa, so pretty much anything that's going to happen with these abilities is going to be on that Pokemon, like just like the moves. I was talking about I did a separate video talking about all of the new exclusive moves in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Most of the new moves are going to be exclusives, just like a lot of the new abilities, so a lot of this is just going to play around Drampa, unless you go for a skill swap. I think that's another thing, like when we think about these new abilities, think skill swap as well, because that is going to unlock some insane potential on a lot of Pokemon, because some of these abilities are absolutely nuts. And then we go into the Comatose ability. So, signature ability of the Komala, users unable to get burned, poisoned, or paralyzed. If you think about it, it can combo with the electric terrain. So you put a Tapu Koko out there, get that electric surge going, and now you can't fall asleep either. So something like that could work out on the Komala, and it's just a pretty straightforward ability that works out really well. Corrosion is going to be up next. Corrosion's dumb. I think everyone lost their mind when we saw like Salandit. It's like, alright, what's Salandit going to do? It can poison any Pokemon. And then it gets an evolution that's also pretty sleepy, so it can poison any Pokemon. And I like the idea for the tech. Now, unfortunately, I would have loved to see like Arbok, any kind of old school poison tank, get that corrosion ability. Garbodor would make sense. Muck would certainly make sense. Just a lot of these toxic Pokemon getting a hold of that, which means that the Toxic Stall would be a lot weaker overall, because if you're a poison or steel type Pokemon, you're not expecting to get toxic. But I do like that because now Salazzle, alright, you run Sweeper Set, and then you also just tech in a toxic. Who knows where that could go? Could be pretty nice. But that was like one of the most, I wouldn't say revolutionary, but that is very creative, and it kind of gave some insight into the shenanigans that are going on in the 7th generation. Next up, we have the Dancer ability. I am going to go so hard into Oricoreo's like strategy guide when I get to that point, because Dancer has so many crazy combo potentials that you can use Dancer to just switch into what the opponent is going for. And that means, yeah, if you're like, oh man, this Garchomp is going Swords Dance, so the Salamence is going Dragon Dance, you bring in the Oricoreo and you try to like out-tech them. At least you don't waste a turn. You might be able to grab some key stats off the opponent. Quiver Dance, Lunar Dance, Fiery Dance, Revelation Dance. There's a lot more dance moves than you guys might realize. So even though it sounds very niche, it's kind of like sound moves. Next thing you know, you realize a lot of Pokemon use a lot of sound moves, not commonly, but at least frequently enough to where you will get some usage out of the Dancer ability, and I like that. That doesn't eat up your turn, you just copy it, and then you get to go. Cool stuff. Next up, we have the Dazzling ability. User is immune to all priority moves. Not much else to say there. Bruxish got a pretty solid ability. And then we have Disguise. So when we first saw Disguise, the big question is, alright, does this refresh when you switch out? But nope, we find out that it is once per battle. So when first switched in, you gain that substitute. After it breaks, your Disguise is broken for the rest of the battle. There's still some good stuff. You know, you get the setup, and then you become a, I wouldn't say very tanky Pokemon, but it's kind of like slightly less tanky than Rotom on the Mimikyu, so it does pretty well, and you do get a free turn off that Disguise, so I'm looking forward to see if we can get some crazy Mimikyu strats coming out of the community, or if just like new tech comes in and gets pretty crazy. Electric Surge, talking about Tapu Koko, makes the field electric terrain, so pretty much Pokemon on the ground cannot fall asleep, and electric type moves get a 50% boost, but it is exclusive to the Tapu Koko. Just like all the other surges, they are going to be exclusive to their respective Tapu. Emergency Exit. So when I first saw Emergency Exit, I'm like, wait, this sounds exactly like Wimpao. When users' hit points drop below half, it flees from battle / swaps out. Well, let's go and look up the Emergency Exit. What Pokemon could get that? Oh, we have Golisopod. Golisopod gets the Emergency Exit, but Wimpod gets Wimp Out. So I guess we become big, bulky, you know, scary looking monster Golisopod. You don't wimp out anymore. You take that tactical emergency exit and you're good to go. So that's why I'm imagining right there. But I mean, it's still pretty cool because it does have the exclusive move that the first time it comes in, it gains, I believe, +2 priority and then does 90 damage on the stab bug. So that has a good combo that you come in, you know, you go for that priority move, you take some damage, you hit them, you take some more damage, you flop out, and then you can go back in and get some more damage. So strategy behind Emergency Exit going to be interesting, but I like the way this Pokemon could play. Then we have the Fluffy ability, so halves damage from moves that make contact. It's weird because yes, Grass Knot makes contact and some other special moves like Draining Kiss do make contact. So those moves will be reduced, but then other like physical moves like Earthquake will not be reduced. So it's not like a full-on defensive doubling, and you do gain that weakness to fire. So you're trading off more that, like, you're going to see more contact moves than fire type moves. So you are getting a beneficial trade right there, and it just kind of adds to what your Bewear is going to be capable of. Then we have Full Metal Body. I love this. Just the description. This isn't like actual flavor text from the game, but just call it Clear Body. That's why I keep saying Solgaleo is Metagross. Like, that's it. You have a Psychic Steel with Clear Body. Done. It just means that the opponent cannot lower your stats. Galvanize, Electric, Pixelate. Normal type moves become a certain type. In this case, it is going to be Electric on that Galvanize. Gain a 30% boost, and because it is going to be on the Alolan Geodude, it will also gain Stab. Now, what I really like about Galvanize is that it gets into the Golem, and the Golem does pretty well. You know, have a 120 on the attack, and that's the same as Mega Glalie. So Mega Glalie, it wants to go for like that explosion, refrigerate, crazy damage boosting, but Golem actually does much more damage because as an Alolan Pokemon, you get to hold an item. So it pretty much like Mega Glalie is now absolutely useless because of this like gimmick. Because now Golem, it survives a hit and then it just explodes everything, and nothing's going to survive that. Nothing is going to survive like the Life Orb or the Choice Band, Galvanize, Explosion, Stab, Super Boosting, 120 base attack. GG right there. We might actually have a contender for like the most possible damage in a single turn without any setup. Because I know people are going to bring up Shuckle and stuff, but in one turn, you know, just first turn, Choice Band, Explosion, Galvanize on the 120 with the Golem. I think that might actually get somewhere, and that is pretty crazy to think about. So the Galvanize could be useful. I would like to see more than just that evolutionary line with it. I love moves like Aerolate, Pixelate, Refrigerate, so maybe in future generations, or maybe like as Pokemon Company has gone through and reworked some older Pokemon, we can see Galvanize on something else, or maybe a new Mega if Megas do make a return in future games. Then we have Grass Surge. Grassy Terrain, Pokemon on the ground heal 1/16. Also, Secret Power has a 30% chance to make the target fall asleep, and grass moves are going to be boosted, synergized with Grassy Pelt on the Go-Go. Pretty much stuff like that, and Tapu Bulu will be getting the Grass Surge. Innards out! Inflicts damage taken the turn fainted Pokemon on the opposing Pokemon. So pretty much as we've seen from like the website when we go into the Pyukumuku, you deal the same amount of damage as the damage that knocked you out. So if you're at full hit points and you get KO'd, you're going to do that much back to the opponent. Now, unfortunately, Pyukumuku doesn't have like an evolution or anything, and it isn't like the most insane Pokemon, only 55 on that base hit points, but it is fairly tanky, so we might get to see some interesting things happen, and the Innards out, just some fun little stuff added on, and its other ability is Unaware, so that could be pretty useful as well. And then next up, we have Liquid Voice. So this was actually really cool, finding out that the starter final evolutions can have an exclusive hidden ability. So we didn't get that from the official Pokemon website. Liquid Voice, all of these Pokemon's sound-based moves will become water type. Oh, this is absolutely scary, because my first thought was you round combo. Then in double battles or whatever, okay, you have a very fast Pokemon using round. Now Liquid Voice is going to get stab and then also just have that extra water type boosting to it, and that is pretty awesome. Now I was hoping that would also gain a 30% boost, kind of like the Galvanized Pixelate or anything like that, but it's still going to be pretty solid, and I do like that you get at least stab off of what would otherwise be, you know, a normal Hyper Voice. Well, it makes sense for Primarina that it should do more with that Hyper Voice than just neutral unstab damage or something like that. So I'm actually trying to think about like what Pokemon could benefit that on a skill swap. Like other water Pokemon that tend to Hyper Voice could do some cool stuff right there. Long Reach. Now this is also going to be the hidden ability of Decidueye. This Pokemon's moves does not make contact, so actually you're getting a pretty big buff against the Beware right there, but the Long Reach is pretty cool in that regard, because yeah, contact is bad. That if you go up against a Pokemon, you know, it could have Rocky Helmet, that'll hurt. You could also be going up against something with Iron Barbs, that'll hurt. You know, it's just safer if you're not making contact with the opponent, because most things don't interact with non-contact moves like that. Then we have the Merciless ability. So when attacking the opponent Pokemon, if they are poisoned, that Pokemon's attack will always result in a critical hit. Okay, who gets the Merciless ability? Because that sounds absolutely crazy. Merciless will be for the, Mareanie, and then like its evolution, Toxapex. That's actually pretty filthy right there. So always critting a poisoned Pokemon, that is powerful. And again, this seems like something, you know, if that was on the Arbok, if that was on a Forgotten Poison Pokemon, I think it would make sense thematically, and then the damage would be pretty cool and make that Pokemon useful. But we kind of saw this with Venoshock. Venoshock, if the opponent is poisoned, it does double damage, and then you get into like this insane poison move, but we just didn't see enough combos out of it. However, Toxic Spikes, that is always a decent kind of idea. Unfortunately, Toxic Spikes get absorbed by other poison Pokemon, so you can't really get too much else out of that. Then we have Misty Surge, causes Misty Terrain to appear. That is going to be Dragon-type moves are halved, and then Pokemon on the ground cannot be status. Tapu Fini will be setting the Misty Surge, so we know pretty much most about what that is going to be capable of right now. And then we have Power of Alchemy. Whew, this is a scary ability right here. Pokemon copies the ability of a defeated ally. What about the Receiver ability? Inherits the ability of a fallen ally Pokemon. Okay then. So, yeah. With Power of Alchemy and Receiver, there's going to be some crazy combos in the game, and I look forward to that kind of stuff. We have the Alolan Muck with the Power of Alchemy, and then we also have the Passimian bringing us the Receiver ability, so some fun stuff right there. Prism Armor, it's pretty much filter solid rock, so that means if you eat a super effective move, the super effective damage part of it will be half. Therefore, you only take, like, I believe 1.25 times damage instead of 2 times damage on those super effective moves. Psychic Surge, it causes the terrain to become Psychic Terrain, so that could work out pretty well. Especially if you just bring that in on the Tapu Lele, no priority moves, just like that. And then also Psychic type Pokemon do gain a boost, so that could be pretty interesting. Queenly Majesty, Pokemon is unaffected by priority moves, so just like the Dazzling, but on a different Pokemon. I don't understand why it has to be Queenly Majesty over the Dazzling. I feel like that if we are dealing with the Sarina, it could be a Dazzling kind of Pokemon as well. I kind of also noticed this with the moves, that there was that move Liquefy that pretty much is the same thing as Razor Shell. So it looks like trying to fit more thematically than making a similar Pokemon or similar move work with that kind of Pokemon. Then we have the RKS system. This is going to change the type based on what memory Silvally is holding. So it's pretty much going to be like Silvally exclusive ability, and then you hold it a memory, and then think Plates and multi-type are an Arceus. So yep, that's going to happen. Just change his type, and then you can do some crazy combos after that. Now, with the schooling ability, this is an ability that we knew about for a while. Changes Wishiwashi into its school form, which has insane stats, but reverts back when the user's hit points drop to 25% or lower. So we were waiting for what kind of percentage that you would de-school, and it's at 25%. So at least it's not 50%. You can hang in there for a bit, and then after that, you're kind of screwed because you're just little old Wishiwashi. And I think it has been like confirmed that Wishiwashi has the lowest base stat total out of any Pokemon in the game, which is kind of crazy to think about. Shadow Shield, multi-scale. Lunala has multi-scale effectively at full hit points, takes half from that first hit. And then we have the Shields Down ability, unable to get status, and causes a form change when you drop below 50%. We knew about this from the Pokemon website on the Minior, but we do know Minior's stats right now, so let's go and check those out. And it goes from 60 hit points and then 100 in either defense to 100, 100, and 120 for its offenses and speed. Also, it does get Shell Smash. So we have a 120 base speed Pokemon that gets Shell Smash, doubling its 100 base attack or special attack. That seems to be pretty solid right there, and you can't be status while you are setting up. So you Shell Smash, you become weaker, Shields Down activates, but because of that you can't get burned or paralyzed, or even get put to sleep. So your setup is going to be very safe on that Shields Down into the Shell Smash, which actually works out pretty well. So pretty much the biggest thing about the ability wasn't anything about the ability itself, but mostly where we were going to get with Minior's stats, which actually turned out to be pretty cool and clever like that. Then we have the Soul Heart ability. Busted. Increases special attack by 1 stage when any Pokemon on the field faints. Good thing just Magearna has that. It's a mythical Pokemon. We're not going to see it in mini formats. That's terrifying. You think Destiny Bond, that's going to be a +2 right there. Magearna KOs something, that's a +1 right there. Memento, that means you lose an ally, but you gain +1 on your special attack, and then the opponents get weakened. Final Gambit, that's a potential 1-for-1. You combo that into your Fleur Cannon, so if Fleur Cannon KOs, so, alright. You Memento, one of their Pokemon. That's +1 right there. Like Whimsicott, okay, this is the turn right here. Whimsicott, Prankster, Memento. Done. +1 right there. And now you get to use Fleur Cannon on the opponent's Pokemon that you didn't Memento. You go -2, but you are definitely KOing that Pokemon right there. So you get your +1 back, and now you're at +0, and you're effectively in a 3v3, but the opponent still has a Mementoed Pokemon. So you can do all kinds of weird stuff like that. Another Pokemon comes in, you trade, you boost. If Magearna doesn't even need to, like at +1, it just does a non-Fleur Cannon attack and KOs the opponent. Yeah, that's some scary stuff to think about. Then we have the Stakeout ability. So user deals twice the amount of damage if the Pokemon just switched in. So if you KO the opponent, they come in, that's going to be pretty good. Or if they manually switch out or manually switch in or whatever, that is going to be the damage boost on that turn. Figured this one about Stakeout pretty early on. Stamina. Busted. Increases physical damage by 1 when hit. You just get hit and then you boost your defense. Now here's the thing. I actually haven't looked up Mudsdale's stats because I want that surprise. I want to know how ridiculous Mudsdale is going to be when I first do my how to use guide, so I want that to kind of be a surprise right there. But no matter how that works, stamina is going to be crazy, and I feel like that is a skill swap if I've ever seen one. You skill swap stamina into a huge special defense Pokemon, that's scary. Anything. That is going to be scary with anything right there, and I do need to add another screen region for all of these other ones. Now, these are some really cool, clever, creative, whatever you want to call them, abilities right here, and it does get pretty fun. So we go into the Steelworker ability. Now this is going to be on that Anchor Pokemon. Steel moves are boosted. So it's effectively like having 3 stab. That, weirdly enough, that Ghost Anchor looking thing, another Grass Ghost Pokemon. So a lot of weaknesses, awkward coverage, but with the Steelworker and an exclusive move that this Pokemon gets access to, it's getting all kinds of exclusives, but it might be useful off of that. And I do like these steel moves being boosted. But again, Game Freak, what is your plan? Because we need to see other Pokemon get access to the Steelworker. Like, that'd be really cool. There's a lot of Steel Pokemon that could use some love out there, but it's just the Delmise. Yeah, that's kind of all I gotta say. Surge Surfer, double speed in electric terrain. That is going to be on the Alolan Raichu. So it's surfing around on its tail, gaining some extra speed. So think Rain, think Swift Swim, think Tapu Koko. done. Tangling Hair. Now, this was actually a really fun one, because as the demo leaks were coming out, we were talking about what Alolan Dugtrio gets. Tangling Hair has the gooey effect, so when the opponent makes contact on you, you lower their speed by 1, and that is going to be on the Alolan Dugtrio. So the Alolan Dugtrio being fabulous, and then having tangly hair that get the opponent caught in it, and then actually benefit you. That's pretty nuts, but actually really interesting. The Triage ability, all healing moves gain the highest priority. I believe there's like 4 or 5 new healing moves introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon, so that's something to skill swap, that's something to make work with some other Pokemon. But again, the Triage ability will only be on the Comfey, so it's kind of like having a mega supportive Pokemon that kind of has Prankster, except not really, it's only on the healing. So you can do some really interesting stuff with the Comfey right there. And then we can also go into the last of these, Water Bubble. Fire-type moves are weakened and the user cannot get burned, and then Water Compaction increases defense by 2 stages when hit by water moves. We know that Water Compaction is going to be on the Palossand and the Sandygast. While boosting by 2 stages when taking a hit sounds really busted, you're a Ground-type Pokemon, and Water-type moves are going to be special, so I don't see the synergy right there. Best case scenario, do you take a super effective hit that doesn't knock you out enough and then you knock out the opponent in return? Like, I guess weakness policy. So you gain defense, you gain special attack, and then since you're slow because you're just a sandcastle Pokemon, you KO the opponent in return. They bring in a physical attacker, you survive that hit, and then you KO. I guess the Water Compaction can do that, but I don't see much else. And then we have the Water Bubble. Fire-type moves are weakened, and it can't be burned, but that's pretty much going to be off of the Dewpider. So Dewpider getting the Water Bubble, and yep, there we go. So if you guys enjoyed the video, talking about all of the new abilities, getting clarifications on the one we already knew about. I think my only disappointment is that, yeah, like, all of these were exclusive to 7th generation introduced Pokemon. Like, okay, sure, some Alolan Pokemon got it. That's still 7th generation right there. No, just reworking of older Pokemon on those abilities. I would have loved to see some of this stuff come in like that, but that is what we are dealing with right now. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.